My father kicked me out of the house because of my sister's lies, but a few days later I was already living at home, and they were not. I never thought my life would change over a single lie. But that's exactly what happened. I stood at the front door, my heart pounding in my chest as my father's glare bore into me. His face was flushed with anger, his fists clenched at his sides. "Get out of my house, Liam," he spat, his voice dripping with contempt. Behind him, my sister, Ava, stood with her arms crossed, wearing that smug little smirk I had grown to despise. She had won, and she knew it. "Yeah, good luck, loser," she sneered, barely containing her laughter. I wanted to fight back, to scream that she was lying, to beg my father to see reason. But what was the point? He had never believed me before. Why would he start now? Ava could have stolen a car and blamed me, and he still would have taken her side. I turned to my mother, the only person in this house who had ever tried to defend me. She stood frozen, her hands shaking, her eyes filled with helplessness. I could tell she wanted to do something, anything, to stop this. But she couldn't. She had already tried. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Fine. Without another word, I walked past them, heading upstairs to my room. If they wanted me gone, I wouldn't fight it. I had wasted enough time trying to make my father see the truth. Ava was still grinning as I passed her, that twisted gleam of satisfaction dancing in her eyes. She wasn't even trying to hide how much she was enjoying this. I slammed my door shut and locked it, my breaths coming fast and unsteady. My hands shook as I grabbed my backpack, stuffing it with whatever clothes I could find, a couple of t-shirts, some jeans, my phone charger. I didn't even have any money. I was 16. Still in high school. Where the hell was I supposed to go? Downstairs, I could still hear my mother arguing with my father, her voice frantic and desperate. His, however, was as cold as ever. "You're defending him? After what he did?" "He didn't do anything, Lucas. Ava is lying." But he wouldn't listen. He never did. Ava had always been his golden child. The perfect one. The one who could do no wrong. And me? I was nothing but a problem, a disappointment, an inconvenience. This wasn't the first time Ava had lied about me. She had twisted stories before, making me out to be the villain while she played the innocent victim. Every single time, Dad had taken her side without question. But this time, she had outdone herself. She told him I had stolen his prized watch, the one he kept locked away in his study, the one he never let anyone touch. She claimed I had sold it, that I had been planning to cash in on it for weeks. She even had fake tears to go with the act. And Dad? He swallowed the lie whole. Before I could even defend myself, he had grabbed me by the arm, shoved me against the wall, and screamed in my face about how I was nothing but an ungrateful thief. Mom had tried to intervene, tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen. He never listened when it came to Ava. So, here I was. Packing up whatever little I had, knowing there was nothing left for me here. When I zipped my bag shut, the reality of it all hit me like a freight train. I was leaving. I had no money. No plan. Nowhere to go. I took a shaky breath and slung my bag over my shoulder. My feet felt like lead as I walked to my window, taking one last look at the place I had once called home. Then, without another thought, I turned around and walked out of the room, down the stairs, past my father, past Ava. Past my mother. Her eyes were brimming with unshed tears. She wanted to stop me. But she couldn't. I gave her a small nod. And then I was gone. 3 days. That's how long it took. I stayed at my grandmother's house for 3 days, trying to wrap my head around what had happened. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even surprised. Just tired. Grandma never pressured me to talk, but I could tell she was angry. She muttered under her breath about my father, about how she always knew he was useless. She never liked Ava either. Always said she was too much like him, entitled, manipulative, selfish. Then, on the 3rd day, my phone rang. It was my mother. At first, I thought she was calling to check on me. Maybe to apologize again for not being able to stop my father. But as soon as I picked up, I knew something was different. She wasn't crying this time. She wasn't pleading. She was calm. Steady. And there was something in her voice I had never heard before. "Liam, come home. I frowned. What? I'm sending you money for the bus. Come home. Now. I hesitated. Mom, Trust me. Just get here. A few seconds later, a text popped up on my screen. She had sent me enough money for a ticket. I had no idea what was going on. But one thing was for sure, my mother never talked like that unless she meant it. So I packed my bag, thanked my grandmother, and caught the first bus home. When I arrived, my mother was waiting for me at the front door. She wasn't crying. She wasn't nervous. She looked ready. Come in, she said. I stepped inside. And that's when I saw them. My father and Ava, sitting on the couch, looking like they had just seen a ghost. Dad had a glass of whiskey in his hand, his grip so tight I thought the glass might shatter. Ava's face was pale, all traces of her usual arrogance gone. I glanced at my mother. What's going on? She took a deep breath and turned to face my father. It's time. He scoffed. Time for what? Time for the two of you to leave. Silence. Ava let out a nervous laugh. What? You heard me, Mom said, her voice as cold as ice. Get out. Dad shot up from his seat. You're joking. Mom didn't even flinch. Do I look like I'm joking? His face turned red. This is my house. No, it's not, she replied. It's mine. I paid for it. I paid for everything. The bills. The cars. The clothes on your back. You don't work. You never have. And I'm done taking care of you. Ava's jaw dropped. Mom, you're not serious. Oh, I am. She walked to the table, picked up a stack of papers, and tossed them in front of Dad. I've already spoken to a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. Your credit cards? Cancelled. Your bank accounts? Frozen. I'm done supporting your lifestyle. Dad's hands shook as he stared at the documents. You can't do this, he muttered. I can, Mom said. And I already did. Ava shot up from the couch, panic in her eyes. Where are we supposed to go? Mom shrugged. Not my problem. And just like that, the tables had turned. Ava turned to my father in panic. Dad, say something. But for the first time in his life, my father had nothing to say. He just stood there, frozen, staring at the divorce papers in front of him, his face drained of all its usual confidence. He looked lost. I leaned against the wall, watching it all unfold. 3 days ago, I was the one standing at this very door, being kicked out like I was nothing. Ava had laughed in my face. My father had told me I wasn't worth keeping around. And now? Now it was their turn. My mother crossed her arms and looked at them expectantly. Well? My father scoffed, shaking his head. This is insane. You can't just throw us out like this. Mom's expression didn't waver. That's exactly what I'm doing. You're my wife, he snapped. Not anymore, she said simply. Ava's mouth opened and closed as she struggled for words. Mom, come on. You don't mean this. Oh, I mean every word. It was fascinating to watch. For as long as I could remember, Ava had always been the untouchable one. The one who could get away with anything. She would lie, manipulate, twist things to her advantage, and no one ever held her accountable. Until now. I could practically see the gears turning in her head as she tried to figure out a way out of this. But I have school, she stammered. My friends. My stuff. Mom didn't even blink. Figure it out. Dad let out a bitter laugh, rubbing his face. So that's it? You expect us to just pack up and leave? Just like that? Just like that, Mom confirmed. I saw the panic start to set in. Ava actually looked like she might cry. You're just mad. You'll calm down, she said quickly. We'll talk in the morning, and everything will go back to normal. Mom tilted her head. Try me. Then, she pulled out her phone and started dialing. My father frowned. Who are you calling? A locksmith, she said. The locks will be changed as soon as you walk out that door. That was the moment it hit them. Dad's face twitched, his bravado cracking. Ava turned ghostly pale. They had no power here anymore. Ava spun to me, desperate now. Liam, seriously? You're just going to stand there and let her do this? I thought about it for a second. Then I smiled. Good luck, loser. Ava gasped, her face twisting in disbelief. Dad slammed his fist against the table. Enough of this. I'm not going anywhere. Mom sighed and pointed at the door. You can leave willingly, or I can call the police to escort you out. Your choice. Silence. Slowly, Dad reached for his coat. His hands were shaking, his jaw clenched. He turned to Ava, who was still frozen in place. Come on. She blinked. Wait, we're actually leaving? No, Mom said. And just like that, they were gone. Mom exhaled and turned to me. Are you hungry? I laughed. Starving. And with that, we closed the door on them forever. The silence in the house felt strange. Not eerie. Not heavy. Peaceful. 3 days ago, I had walked out of this house with nothing. Now, they were the ones with nowhere to go. Mom didn't even look back. She locked the door, sent a message to the locksmith, and walked into the kitchen like it was just another day. I made some pasta earlier, she said. It should still be warm. I followed her, my brain still trying to catch up with what had just happened. You really did it, I murmured. She scoffed, right I did. I should have done it a long time ago. I sat at the table, finally realizing how hungry I was. The past few days had been so overwhelming that I had barely eaten. Now, for the first time in what felt like forever, I could actually breathe. As I dug into my food, Mom poured herself a cup of coffee, her expression unreadable. You know what's funny, she said suddenly. What? They'll be fine. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? She leaned back in her chair. Your father is a grown man. If he wants to act like a victim, let him. He could have gotten a job years ago, but he didn't. And Ava. She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. She thought she was untouchable. She thought she'd always have a safety net. Now she's going to find out what it's like to be the one on the outside. I smirked. I doubt she'll take it well. Oh, she won't, Mom said, sipping her coffee. She's probably throwing a tantrum right now. And she was. It started with the texts. First, Ava tried guilt-tripping me. Liam, this is insane. You're really going to let Mom do this? I ignored it. Then, when I didn't answer, she switched to anger. Wow. So this is payback, huh? You think you're better than me now? News flash, you're still pathetic. Still ignored it. Then came the desperation. Please, Liam. I have nowhere else to go. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I turned off my phone. The next morning, things escalated. Mom was drinking her coffee when her phone rang. She sighed, looking at the screen. It's your father. I rolled my eyes. What does he want now? She answered, putting him on speaker. What do you want, Lucas? His voice was different this time, less aggressive, more controlled. Like he had rehearsed it. Listen, we need to talk. Mom didn't look impressed. About what? A pause. Then, reluctantly, he admitted, Ava and I want to come back. I nearly choked on my drink. Mom raised an eyebrow. You what? Dad cleared his throat. We got emotional. We overreacted. I think we can all admit mistakes were made on both sides. But let's be reasonable, kicking us out like this was extreme. Mom smirked. Where have you been staying? Silence. Then, quietly, he muttered, with my mother. I grinned. That made sense. Grandma was his only real option. Mom let out a chuckle. Let me guess, she got tired of you and kicked you out too. More silence. Then, very softly, Dad muttered, yes. I couldn't help but laugh. Mom shook her head. Wow, Lucas. When your own mother doesn't want you around, maybe, just maybe, you should consider that you're the problem. Dad ignored that. Come on, Lisa. You know we can't live on the street. Just let us come back, and we'll figure something out. Mom's expression turned icy. Respect first and foremost. What? You heard me. I won't let either of you step foot in this house unless you come back with real respect for me and for Liam. No more insults. No more manipulation. No more using me. If you can't do that, you're not welcome here. Ever. Dad scoffed. Lisa, don't be ridiculous. We're a family. You kicked your son out, Mom cut in. Don't talk to me about family. Ava's voice suddenly appeared in the background. Mom, please, But Mom didn't care. No. And just like that, she hung up. For a while, it was quiet. No texts. No phone calls. No drama. It was almost as if they had never existed. And honestly, I almost forgot they did. But then, one afternoon, as Mom was lying on the couch reading, her phone rang again. She sighed, barely glancing at the screen before putting it on speaker. It was Dad. Lisa, listen, he started, his voice forced into something resembling calm. We need to talk. Mom didn't even bother sitting up. Talk about what? A pause. Then, like it physically pained him to admit it, he said, Ava and I want to come back. I nearly dropped my glass. Mom raised an eyebrow. You what? We overreacted, he said quickly. We all did. Things got heated, and we made some bad decisions. Let's be reasonable, kicking us out like that was too much. Mom leaned back, unimpressed. Where have you been staying? More silence. Then, begrudgingly, he muttered, with my mother. I grinned. Let me guess, Grandma got sick of you, too? More silence. Then, barely above a whisper, Dad admitted, yes. I had to bite back my laughter. Mom smirked. Wow, Lucas. When even your own mother doesn't want you around, maybe, just maybe, you should consider that you're the problem. Dad ignored that. Lisa, come on. You know we can't live on the street. Just let us come back, and we'll figure something out. Mom's expression turned cold. Respect first and foremost. What? If you two want back in this house, she said, you come here with real respect for me and for Liam. No more insults. No more manipulation. No more using me. If you can't do that, don't bother. Dad scoffed. Lisa, don't be ridiculous. We're a family. You kicked your son out, Mom cut in. Don't talk to me about family. Ava's voice suddenly appeared in the background, desperate. Mom, please, Mom didn't even let her finish. No. And with that, she hung up. I sat back, stunned. Well, I said after a moment, that was satisfying. Mom stretched like she had just finished a good workout. God, that felt good. And just like that, Dad and Ava were out of options. At first, they tried to act like they didn't care. Ava posted pictures online, pretending everything was fine. Dad probably tried to convince himself that this was just temporary. But Mom and I knew better. Reality was catching up with them fast. Dad had never worked a real job in his life. Mom had always been the one paying for everything, bills, groceries, the house, even his car. Without her, he had nothing. And Ava? She had spent her whole life as the spoiled little princess, used to getting whatever she wanted. But now? Now she was just another broke, unemployed college kid with no friends to mooch off of. It was only a matter of time before something cracked. And then, one evening, it finally happened. There was a knock at the door. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just, hesitant. I was in the kitchen when I heard it. Mom glanced at me, then at the clock. It was late. Slowly, she got up and opened the door. And there he was. My father. He looked terrible. His clothes were wrinkled, his beard was unshaven, and the weight of reality sat heavy on his shoulders. Lisa, he said quietly. Can we talk? Mom crossed her arms. About what? He hesitated, his eyes flickering to me. I screwed up. I almost laughed. He got it now. After everything. Mom didn't look impressed. You sure did. I mean it, he said, his voice unsteady. I was wrong about everything. About Liam. About you. I let Ava manipulate me. I let my own pride blind me, and I see it now. I waited for Mom to crack. For her to soften. For her to let him back in. But she didn't. Good for you, she said. But it doesn't change anything. He swallowed hard. Lisa, please. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking for another chance. Not for me, for Ava. She can't do this alone. Mom let out a slow sigh. That's not my problem anymore. He winced. We have nowhere to go. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, finally, she said, I'll make you a deal. Dad's eyes lit up. Anything. I'll give you $20,000, she said. Enough for you to start over, find a place, get back on your feet. His face flooded with relief. Lisa, thank you. I swear, I won't waste it. I'll prove to you that I can change. Mom nodded. Good. Then let's finalize the divorce. The color drained from his face. Wait, what? You want the money, she said. Sign the papers. I could see the war in his head. He didn't want to lose control. Didn't want to lose it all. But the promise of money was too tempting. So he agreed. A few months later, the divorce was finalized. And Dad got his $20,000. Or so he thought. Turns out, Mom knew exactly what she was doing. The agreement stated that the money wouldn't be released until he proved he could support himself, meaning a steady job, his own place, real responsibility. If he didn't? He got nothing. So, in the end, he walked away with exactly what he deserved. Absolutely nothing. Life didn't go back to the way it was. It got better. For the first time in years, the house was peaceful. No more tension. No more walking on eggshells. No more listening to Dad and Ava gang up on me. Mom and I settled into a new rhythm. She worked. I focused on school. And we actually talked. As for Dad? Reality hit him fast. With no job and no savings, he ended up renting a tiny, run-down apartment that barely covered the basics. He tried finding real work, but with no experience and a terrible work ethic, the best he could do was minimum wage. The golden life he once had was gone. And Ava? She was still living off him, whining, refusing to get a real job. I figured it was only a matter of time before something broke. And then, one day, Mom's phone rang again. She glanced at the screen and sighed. It's your father. I rolled my eyes. What now? She put him on speaker. His voice was tense, barely controlled. You won't believe this. Mom raised an eyebrow. Try me. He exhaled sharply. It was Ava. I frowned. What? The watch, he growled. The one she blamed you for. She stole it. She sold it months ago and used the money to buy clothes and a damn game console. I leaned back, stunned. I should have been angry. I should have been furious. But honestly? I just felt tired. Mom, on the other hand, just laughed. Oh wow, Lucas. You mean to tell me that your precious daughter, the one you trusted more than your own son, lied to you? Imagine that. Lisa, don't start. I don't care, she said. Not my problem. And then, with pure satisfaction in her voice, she hung up. For a long moment, Mom just stared at her phone, shaking her head with a small, amused smirk. Well, she said, that was satisfying. I leaned back in my chair, still processing everything. Ava had stolen the watch. The same watch she had framed me for. I should have been mad. I should have felt the sting of injustice, thinking about how my father had thrown me out over something I never did. But honestly? I just felt tired. Ava being a selfish liar wasn't news to me. The only surprising part was that Dad had finally figured it out. Wait, I said, suddenly curious. So what did he do? Mom took a sip of her coffee, looking entirely unbothered. He kicked her out. I blinked. Wait, what? She shrugged. Told her to leave. Just like he should have when this all started. I sat there for a second, trying to imagine the scene. Ava, standing there in complete shock, realizing that she was finally on the receiving end of the very thing she had done to me. And for once, there was no one left to save her. Mom let out a small chuckle. Guess karma doesn't play favorites, huh? I smirked. Guess not. A few days passed. Then a week. At first, I figured Ava would try reaching out to Dad again, try manipulating him into taking her back. But then Mom's phone rang. She sighed, looked at the screen, and raised an eyebrow. It's him again. I rolled my eyes. What does he want now? She put him on speaker. What, Lucas? His voice was lower this time, controlled, but I could hear the frustration underneath. You won't believe this, he muttered. Mom leaned back. Try me. There was a long, sharp exhale before he finally said it. Ava called me, he gritted out. Mom raised an eyebrow. And? She wanted me to convince you to take her back. I nearly choked on my drink. Mom actually laughed. Oh, that's rich. Lisa, listen. No, she said, cutting him off instantly. I don't care what her excuse is. She made her bed, she can sleep in it. She has nowhere to go. Dad snapped, clearly frustrated that this conversation wasn't going the way he wanted. Mom's smirk never faded. And whose problem is that? Silence. Then, very quietly, he muttered, she thought you'd say that. I shook my head in disbelief. After everything, after she had lied about me, after she had laughed as I was kicked out, after she had lived comfortably for years while making my life hell, she had the audacity to think I'd help her? Dad sighed, his voice turning almost bitter. She's been trying to stay with her so-called friends, but none of them want her there. She thought she was so popular, but it turns out, no one actually likes her. I snorted. Shocking. Mom didn't look the least bit surprised. So what does she expect me to do about it? Dad hesitated. She asked if she could move back in with you. I couldn't help myself. I actually laughed. Are you serious? Mom shook her head, sighing. Wow, Lucas. It's almost like raising a spoiled brat with zero accountability doesn't work out in the long run. Who could have guessed? Lisa, don't start, Dad muttered, clearly irritated. Then don't waste my time, she shot back. The answer is no. She made her choice. I'm done cleaning up her messes. Dad let out a slow breath. So that's it? You're just gonna let your own daughter be homeless? Mom's expression darkened. You mean like how you let your son be homeless? That shut him up. I could almost hear the guilt seep into his silence. Mom smirked. Tell her I said good luck. And then she hung up. Life moved on. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't constantly walking on eggshells in my own home. I could wake up without feeling a pit of anxiety in my stomach. Mom and I actually enjoyed each other's company. It was peaceful. A few months passed. Then, one night, I got a text. It was from Ava. Liam, please. I need help. I stared at it for a long moment. I should have felt something, sympathy, maybe, or at least some sense of pity. But I didn't. She had made my life hell for years. Lied about me. Manipulated our father into throwing me out. And now that she was out in the real world, where people weren't obligated to put up with her. Now she wanted my help. I sighed and typed out a response. No. Then I blocked her number. As for Dad? Well, reality hit him fast. Without Mom's financial support, he was forced to get a real job. And with no experience and a terrible work ethic, his options were limited. He ended up working a minimum wage job in some warehouse, barely making ends meet. The life he once had, the house, the comfort, the free ride, was gone. And Mom? She thrived. She sold the house and moved into a beautiful apartment in the city, completely cutting ties with her old life. She looked happier, more at peace. One day, while we were having lunch together, she smirked and said, "You know, Liam, the best thing I ever did was get rid of the dead weight in my life." I raised my glass. To fresh starts. She clinked her glass against mine. To fresh starts. And with that, we closed the chapter on them for good. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.